Greetings, friends. Today I wanted to talk about what I read, and it's something that I'm often asked. So I wanted to share with you in today's blog what I have read in the last 8 weeks, 2 months. Now I'm not going to talk about everything that I have read because it's not going to be possible, but I will share with you one of the notebooks that I keep. I keep different type of journals for different type of needs. So of course one of the journals I keep is regular diaries, but I also keep not always, but for example right now throughout this quiet time of pandemic, I kept a journal of what the books that I have read. So I will go through this list. So this is the journal that I have, and I will talk about what I've read in the last 8 weeks. Now, the rule for this journal is that I only write the books, the names of the books and the author of books that I've read from page 1 to the very last page. So the books that I have read in the entirety. Now what I've realized that I actually maybe read only a third of the books in the entirety. So for example, I in the last 2 months I've read a lot of Emily Dickinson, a lot of poems of Rilke, a lot of William Blake, but all of these poems were coming from the books that were like complete Emily Dickinson. So like a gigantic book that has all of Emily Dickinson poems, everything that she has written. So on a book like this, I'm not reading from page 1 to the last page from cover to cover. Maybe some people do, but in the books that are very large volumes of the complete works, usually I just read, either I'm looking for a specific work and then I find it, or I randomly open it on a page, and or I search for something that I'm going through. So for example, even though I spent a lot of time the last 2 months reading poems of Emily Dickinson, I was reading Rainer Maria Rilke and William Blake, you are not going to find those books in this list because I didn't read them from cover to cover. So then there are a lot of anthologies that I also read pretty much daily, but again with anthologies, kind of a compilation of different works. Again, I don't read them from cover to cover because that's not the point. I usually again look for specific author or specific work, or I just read them at random. Also, for example, so it doesn't represent complete works. For example, if I'm reading a book of essays, I'm not going to list individual essays that I have read. I'm not going, or book of short stories, let's say. I'm only going to list the title of the entire book if I happen to read it from the beginning to the end. Also in the category of books that are not here and that I don't read from the beginning to the end, I read a lot of art books. I have a large collection of books that are either directly related to art, or they are how-to, or they're connected to history of art. And again, those books I read pretty much at random. or specifically related to what I need to find. I also, a lot of the professional music related, for example, books, I don't read from the beginning to the end. Again, I read them specifically, and actually at this point I don't read that many music related books, but if I do, it's really from cover to cover. And lastly, I'm doing a lot of research. So whenever I have a large project that I'm working on, I do tons of research, and I buy a lot of literature related to the topic of my research. And the books that I read for this research are related. I read them because of my research. So it's kind of a goal-oriented process. And I don't necessarily read them from cover to cover. It depends on the book, it depends on why I'm reading it. So, but here in this journal, you will see everything that I read from cover to cover in the last 2 months exactly. So, in fact, I started this on July 25th. Now, the date is the date when I finished reading the book. So as you see here, the first date is July 25th, and the last date, so then I have next couple of pages, more pages, and the last date here is September 25th. So I didn't plan it this way, but it just happened that these 5 pages are exactly 2 months, from July 25th to September 25th. And now the question that I'm often asked is, how in the world I read so much? So if this represents just approximately a third of what I read, how is it possible? And the answer is that I read a lot. I read all the time, and I read books in all kinds of formats. And by formats, I mean I read audiobooks, I read actual books, and you can see my library in the background, and it's just one of the rooms. All rooms in my house are filled with books. And I read also on electronic devices, Kindle, and I have books in all of these formats. And quite often, if I really like a book, I will have it in all the possible formats. Now, in the last, I must say that in the last 2 months, and we are talking about the last 2 months, I don't think I read any books on Kindle or on any electronic devices. And now a lot of people have kind of aversion to reading books on your phone or on Kindle. Now, I don't have it. I think books are wonderful in all types of formats, and I find that it's absolutely wonderful, miraculous, amazing that we can have a large library just on our phone. And for someone who in normal life travels a great deal of the time, like myself, that's absolutely wonderful. I still remember time before all of it was possible, before when I would carry with me like a suitcases full of books whenever I travel. So now it's not necessary. Now so much can be in a digital form. So I'm all for Kindle, for electronic devices and so on. But in my mind, also book is a book. So electronic version is just that. It's a representation of it. But there is something absolutely wonderful about actually holding a book in your hands. So because of it's a pandemic time and I have my books around me, I am reading them, of course, in the book form, physical form, not virtual, digital, ghostly, Holy Ghost form. So all the books that I've written in this notebook, I've read either in the physical form or in the form of audiobooks. Now I do read a lot of audiobooks, and I say read, even though more appropriately would be to say I listen to them. Now there is specific type of books that I read in audiobook format. So for example, anything that requires a lot of concentration or your utmost attention, for example, poetry. I don't read poetry in audiobook forms. Sometimes I enjoy hearing authors read their work. Sometimes I enjoy hearing actors that specialize in literature, in poetry, to read. But generally speaking, poetry is not for your ears. Poetry is for your inner ear. Poetry is something that you need time, you need to read it, you need to read it always more than once. So poetry is slow reading, and that's the beauty of reading poetry. It's not something you can just kind of skip through or just hear. No, it's something that it's almost like meditation. You need to it's like listening to classical music and really listening, not having it on the background, but fully being attentive and fully participating. It requires certain effort of the soul, and that's the beauty and power of poetry. So there are a couple of poetry books here. They're mostly of living poets, and so they're mostly shorter books of about 80 pages, maybe 100 pages. Well, some were more than 100 pages, but generally there is a reason why poetry books of living poets tend to be shorter, because they take time to read. And so those are the books that I did read from first to last page, for sure. But as I mentioned, you're not going to find large collections, anthologies, or like collective works here in this book. So now with audiobooks, first thing that I do when I get up, I turn on an audiobook, and I tend to listen to books whenever I can, whenever I am doing things that don't require my entire concentration. I'm brushing teeth, I'm walking my dog, I'm making myself a protein shake, anything that requires computer but doesn't necessarily requires my complete concentration, I listen to audiobooks. So this is why, as you will see, I read at the very least one book a day, but actually I read more than that. And I also, as you will notice by this list, I have a great variety of books that I read. So some of them are really classics. Some of them are guilty pleasures, as I call them. And by guilty pleasures, I mean, I read a lot of children literature. Not really children, but kind of this children, teenage, young adult category. And I like this long series of books in that category. So, and those I listen only in audiobook form. So they require like minimum brain power. But I do read them a lot, and I must confess that I actually sometimes listen to audiobooks even when I'm working. Now this sounds totally insane, but I have. I think it will be clear to understand if you know my background, and I find that I actually do much better work if I listen to audiobooks at the same time. And I'll probably regret making this video. There is a certain part in my brain that is kind of like a child's like this restless monkey people talk about. I wouldn't call it monkey brain, but I would call it child's restlessness. And I feel that this child restlessness part of my brain that kind of can't stay still needs to be occupied in order for my real brain, my real serious, sophisticated, deep part to be able to work without constantly being disturbed by this child who needs attention. So the way I deal with it, I take this part of my brain and I put it to work. I give it a task. I let it listen to audiobooks. So, and without this monkey part of the brain out, with this part of the brain out of my way, I can actually concentrate on my work. I know it kind of sounds schizophrenic, like totally divided type of activity of brain, but that goes back to very early on. And I can even tell you something totally insane, which possibly maybe not quite normal, and I kind of caught myself doing it recently. I can read 2 books at the same time, and I mean at the same time. I mean literally at the same time, and in different languages, and totally follow completely 100%. Now, I don't do it with something very sophisticated, but let's say medium level intellectual activity type of books. Again, I would never do it with something like poetry or with something like a very complex analysis of something, but with let's say novels, regular fiction books, or especially non-fiction books. I caught myself recently, and I don't know why I was doing it, but I was listening to an audiobook in English while reading at the same time as reading a book in Russian. And they were completely 2 different books. They had nothing to do with each other. One was fiction, the other one was non-fiction. And I just suddenly, I kind of felt a bit uncomfortable at some point, and I just realized that I was reading 2 books at the same time, which I don't know how it is even possible, because supposedly we are not supposed to be able to really follow. We can only listen to one thing or to one thing at a time. At least that's what I've read before. But I swear to you, I could follow completely both books. I was engaged. And just at some point I stopped and I realized I'm doing something weird. But I noticed that I was doing it, and that's not normally how I read books. But I'm just saying it to illustrate that this strange division of brain is actually something that is quite natural for me, and it goes back to my childhood, and that's where I kind of wanted to explain maybe why it developed. So now it's going to be another crazy story, but technically when I was a child, I grew up in still Soviet Union, and I was going to 3 different schools at the same time. I was going to the regular school, and by regular I mean everything with all the regular subjects, and it was actually a very good school. It was one of the best schools in my city. It was the same school that my brother, who is like mathematical genius and chess prodigy, graduated from. So it was kind of a school that was known for its good science subjects and teaching, and at that time, I don't know if it's still so, but in Soviet Union the schools were, first of all, you couldn't skip them. There was no such thing as home education. You were not allowed, you could not just take exams and skip out. You had to come to the school regardless. And the school was 6 days a week. 6, not 5. So Saturday was also school day. And quite long days, many classes. So I was, as also with children, required to go to that school. Then I was going to music school. Now, the music school I was going to was called Special Music School for Gifted Children. And it's actually a wonderful system of special schools that were throughout Soviet Union, where in every big city there would be one school. There would be many music schools, but there would be one special for children who would make music their profession. And technically the school was supposed to also have all other subjects, so it was like professional education specially tailored for future musicians. Unfortunately, in Chelyabinsk, where I grew up, since I wasn't growing up in Moscow or St. Petersburg, which had those schools, it functioned only in its name. And the school only had music subjects. And in Russia, in those schools, you had lessons in music school every day. So you had 3 main lessons with your teacher. For example, I had 3 piano lessons a week. In between, you had college level students who were coaching you. And you had all other subjects like solfege, harmony, ear training, music history. I already don't remember what else, but the whole large list, music analysis of all the different subjects that you also had throughout the week. So you were not just going to music school once a week the way it's often done in the West, when you just spend Saturdays. No, Saturdays were no different than Fridays or Mondays or Tuesdays. So, but you went throughout the day, throughout the week. And in music school, I actually again did something unusual, because I was not studying only on one curriculum. I actually had, scary to say it, 4 different curriculums, because I was studying as a pianist, I was studying as a flutist, I was studying as a violinist, and on top of it, I was actually far ahead of time. I was allowed to study music composition in college with adults, so since age of 8. So So that was my music school. And then I had also a third school, believe it or not, which also had classes every single day, which was figure skating school. And when I was little, so kind of music was, I guess, my mom's idea, and figure skating was my father's idea. And I loved both of them. I loved skating. I loved music. So I was happy to go along. But I went again. It wasn't just figure skating for fun. It was real training with classes every single day and different type of classes. So we had to run. We had to, in addition of course, skating on ice. We had like choreography class. We had to do gymnastics on beam, on uneven bars, on whatever, on the floor. So all in addition to skating on ice. So now, and in addition, of course, I had to, whatever I did, I had to practice piano like 5 hours a day. So now you would ask, how is it possible? Like where is time? How does it work? And I was also a normal kid. I wasn't like some crazy wunderkind that knows nothing except work or practice or whatever. No, I also had time to play with my dogs. Sometimes I played with other children. I would go buy bread and milk or do some house chores. So I wasn't like some kind of a total nut. So now the question is, how did I do it? And the truth is, it's not possible. You literally can't go to 3 full-time schools at the same time. So I was skipping around majorly, and it was not easy. So the most difficult was, of course, the regular school, because it was something absolutely required. It was not optional. And my mom talked to the school's administration and kind of made a deal with them, which was that I would skip school. So, for example, instead of 6 days a week, I would come 2 or 3 days. But, of course, the administration was not happy about it, and of course the teachers were not happy about it, and the students were really unhappy about it, because why should they come every day when I'm skipping school like crazy? And the only condition that the teachers gave my mom sort of to be able to close their eyes on my constant absences was that I would have straight A's. Actually, in the school at that time, it was the highest grade was 5, so I had to have the best possible grades, the highest grades in all subjects, and I had to do all homework in all subjects. So that's where their condition. So as long as I was one of the best or the best student in the class, they would close their eyes that I'm skipping half of the school. And I think the only reason why they actually still allowed it, because it was against rules, was because this was the same school that my brother, who is 10 years older, graduated. And my brother was famous in town because he was like a chess prodigy. And by the time he was 13, he already played with world champions, and he was some very high, on a very high international level as far as chess playing. And he was also winning mathematical Olympiads. So he was kind of this incredibly one of the best graduates from the school, and of course he finished with a gold medal. So, and he was already skipping school in his childhood because, of course, he had to travel for these chess tournaments that he did, and then for the mathematical Olympiads, or whatever those competitions were called. I don't remember, but so he was known already for skipping school and yet being able to graduate. So this is why I think the administration kind of allowed it for my parents. But because I was under this, and I did the same thing also with music school. So with music school, of course, I had to prioritize what was important to me, which was, for example, the one-to-one coachings with my teacher, very, very important. So this was not something that I would be skipping. But let's say some theory classes, I could go much faster, so I would skip them. Harmony classes, I found like them very boring and stupid, so I would kind of skip them around and then have an examination. So I had to constantly balance what I can skip and how far I can kind of push the teacher's patience about my absences. And it was easier to skip, of course, with the ice skating school. I wasn't that serious. I was pretty good, but I kind of never saw the point for the future. I did it for fun. I did it for exercise, and it was excellent because I had the excellent form, athletic form, up until the age of 12. Then later on, it all went completely downhill, disastrous. But up to that age, I was in pretty good shape. So, anyway, when I was in school, in regular school, the only way I could actually manage to do all the homework was if I would do it at the same time as another class was taking place. So it would be typical for me, for example, I would be sitting in a, literature class while doing my math homework sort of behind the desk, or like covering it up. Or if I was not doing the homework for another class, I would be just reading a book because I was a bookaholic since I remember myself. So not only the teachers were so annoyed with me because I was skipping school, but even those moments when I was present in their class, I would still be doing something else at the same time. And of course I was trying to be very discreet about it, and I was always reading in the music classes. I was but every single time when they tried to catch me of not listening and not following and not being mentally present, they never could catch me, because I had part of my brain present, listening to the teacher's lecture, keeping notes, doing calculations or whatever, and the other part of my brain would be doing something totally different and doing homework for another class, or reading an interesting book that was really interesting for me. So, or doing homework for music school that also needed to be done. So I constantly was, and that was my modus operandi, kind of a survival. Oh, and on top of it, to make things worse, so the teachers, of course, were not happy, but since I was getting good grades and I was able to pass, they sort of went along, and of course the students were less than pleased with me. But to make things worse, my mom considered everything that dealt with school, regular school, complete waste of time. So on one hand, I was expected by my parents to have top grades of the class of a quite prestigious school. On the other hand, all of this was total waste of time and really kind of like idiotic work that would not have any significance for my future. So So even if I worked very hard to, to accomplish all of that, I deeply inside I thought, well, I'm just wasting time in school. So this is why I kind of learned from start to prioritize and to be able to do completely two different tasks at the same time, and always to keep something that is truly interesting or important for me as a priority, and then other tasks that for some reason still need to be done. So I trained my brain in, I guess, in this weird way of being able to do completely different tasks at the same time. I don't know whether it's good or bad. I kind of just work with whatever way accomplishes best result for me at this time. So sometimes, of course, I also need complete silence and I feel kind of too crowded. But curiously enough, often enough reading, for example, audiobooks, helps to calm the mind and concentrate. Now I'm going to stop talking about this prelude, because otherwise I will never get to the list of books. Now this is not a book review. I'm not going to comment upon what kind of books they are, what they are about. I'm just going to share with you what I've read from cover to cover in the last 4 weeks exactly. So July 25, 2021. So the first book I have here is How I Discovered Poetry by Marilyn Nelson. I have to talk about it. So now I reread this book. I read it some years ago, but I read it in a Kindle version and I loved it. I know Marilyn Nelson very well. She's a dear friend. She's a wonderful poet, and this is a wonderful book of poems. It's 50 short poems about Marilyn's childhood and how she became a poet, essentially. So, okay, July 26, The Mysterious Benedict Society by Trenton Lee Stewart. This is a children's book or a young adult book, so it's a lot of fun. July 27, The Extraordinary Education of Nicholas Benedict by Trenton Lee Stewart. So this is another book of the series. Usually with the books for children and young adults, I like the ones that are sort of the saga series with many books. July 28, Black Beauty by Anna Siewell. Now, believe it or not, I've never read it before, even though it's as classic as it gets. But it wasn't part of my growing up. Somehow, so I read it now. July 29, The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne. July 30, Детский остров Саши Черной. So my my camera died, so here I'm continuing. July 30, Детский остров Саша Черной. So Sasha Chorny is a Russian poet of the 20th century. And also the same day, Anne of Green Gables by Montgomery. Now, Anne of Green Gables is another classic that I completely missed growing up. I don't even know if it is translated in Russian. At least I've never seen it when I grew up. So the reason why I started reading it was because it is first of all there is I was curious. There is a woman heroine. And it is something that goes through many books. From the time when the girl is young to she becomes young woman, to when she becomes adult, and the author wrote many books following this initial first one. And what I was interested in is my impression usually that in those biography-like books, because it's fiction, but still it follows life of one person, it seems to be always interesting the part of childhood and youth. But once the person is settled, married, has family, it's like I don't know, it's like as boring as a death sentence, and nothing interesting happens and becomes boring. And so I was actually curious to see if the author would manage to keep interest and actually write a series of books that goes through a person's life and doesn't become boring. But alas, it didn't happen. So the same thing happened. So when she gets old there, matures, settles, gets married, has children, then the series continues, but it's mostly about her children or their friends, who again have some interesting things going on. But the main person, the main character is, well, not so interesting. And actually the book is quite annoying, to tell you the truth, the whole series of these books. I think it shows well the mentality of the early 20th century, life in Canada, sort of this. But I don't know, I just got annoyed about it. I promise not to comment. Alright, so next one is July 31st, Act 5, Scene 1 by Stanley Moss. Now this is a poetry collection. And yeah, it's one of those exceptions that I read from cover to cover of poetry collections. Also July 31st, Metel by Tolstoy. I guess you would say snowstorm. I don't know, I read it in Russian. Then also July 31st, Академия речевого этикета Щеголева. I don't even know how to translate this, Academy of Proper Speech, something like this, dreadful. So I'm not even going to comment about it, but I read it. Then August 1st, Octavia, First 30 Days Guide. This is non-fiction. This is about a health program that I'm currently doing. So, but I read it cover to cover, so it's here. August 1, Отец Сергей Толстой. I guess Father Sergei, you would translate it. August 2, Утро помещика, Lev Tolstoy. The morning of, oh my goodness, I don't know how to translate it. Of, forget. Anyway, August 2, now here is a really funny one. Learn German while sleeping. So obviously this was an audiobook for many hours. And now I don't think I've learned German while sleeping. The claim is wrong. But I went through the entire audiobook, and actually I don't think I was sleeping. So you don't learn German and you don't sleep, kind of. That's what you get. August 3, Flares by Christopher Merrill. Christopher Merrill is a dear friend. He's a wonderful poet, and it's a wonderful book of prose poems. So they're a little bit like pictures of snapshots, mental snapshots of from different places where he traveled. August 3, Anne of Avonlea by Montgomery. So this is from the series that I mentioned. August 4, Ein Hüngerer Künstler by Kafka. Read it in German. August 4. Чудеса магии by Akutagawa. Now, Чудеса магии, it's like miracles of magic. But anyway, Akutagawa is a well-known Japanese writer. So next one, August 5th. The Peripatetic Notebook by Dora Handel. Yeah, this is related to visual art. August 5th, Homunculus by Stefano Bessoni. Also a book related to visual art. August 5th, Anne of Iceland by Montgomery. August 6th, Unrest by Emily Fragos. Emily Fragos is a wonderful poet. And this is her new book, and actually I have something to do with this book because I can be proud of because the publisher and Emily, they have chosen one of my paintings for its cover. So the book has my cover, and yeah, I feel very happy about it. And Emily is a wonderful poet, so I highly recommend anything she writes. The next one is August 9, Anne's House of Dreams by Montgomery. So yeah, so it's the same series of this Anne, which I didn't go through the entire series, but each of these books is quite large, so I think the whole series would take 80 hours of listening, something like that, something ridiculous. August 13, The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian by Sherman Alexie. August 14, Rowdy, 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 plus extra chapters from Diary by Sherman Alexie. So it's this is related to the Part-Time Indian book. August 15, Out Stealing Horses by Per Petterson. Per Petterson is a Norwegian writer, and I recommend this book. August 15, German Short Stories collection of 8 stories. Read it in German. August 16, The Diary of a Pilgrimage by Jerome Klapka Jerome. Now, I like Jerome Klapka Jerome, at least I used to like him a lot when I was young. But I must say this is not my favorite book. August 17, Silent Torch by Emily Fragos. August 18, Hostage by Emily Fragos. August 19, The Book of Shadows by Don Patterson. Don Patterson, remember this name, he's a fantastic poet and writer. I probably have all the books that he has written. August 20th, The Narrow Road to the Interior. Interior by Kimiko Han. Now, there are at least 2 more books with this title. There is a reason for that. I'm not going to go into it. But Kimiko Han is a contemporary writer. She is writing inspired by Zuihitsu style. And of course, the first Road to the Interior was by Basho. And so there is a reason why her book is titled the same way as his book. But there are other books with the same title. So anyway, August 21, John Currin Selects. If you don't know John Currin, he's a very important contemporary visual artist, painter, and that's his book where he writes about art. So I recommend it. It's not a very large book, but I like his way of thinking. It's interesting, it's provocative. Anyway, August 22, The Unwanted by Lisa Mann. Now this is another gigantic series of children / teens / young adults series, and this is probably the largest series of books that I have read, and I have read 14 books. This is the first one, but she wrote 14 large books of this series, and I read them all. It's ridiculous, it's embarrassing, but when you have magic, dragons, magic spells, a country called Artime, where you practice magical arts through art, what can go wrong? I mean, I read 14 books. I was sorry it was finished. Lisa Mann, please write another 14 books. So the next one is August 23, Virginia Woolf, A Writer's Diary. Now, normally diaries, I love reading diaries, and I have a huge collection of them. I collect diaries. I even buy diaries of strange random people who sell them, or somebody else sells them. So, but anyway, normally diaries belong to this category of books that would never make it here, because I don't normally read them from cover to cover. Now, this happened to be an exception, and I read the entire diary. And I was also a little bit interested in this particular diary, because currently there is a play called Orlando, based on Virginia Woolf novel, that has my incidental music, and throughout this fall it's been playing a lot, I think mainly in Sweden, but I think in other countries too, because the theater was on tour. So I was especially interested in anything that had something to do with Virginia Woolf and so on. August 25th, The Island of Silence by Lisa Mann. August 26th, The Island of Fire. August 27th, The Island of Legends. Now this is all this never-ending series. August 28th, The Island of Shipwrecks. August 29th, Morbid Curiosities by Paul Gambino. This is visual art related. August 30th, Jean Cocteau, The Mirror and the Mask. This is actually also visual art related. August 31st, Mark Riden, and also another book by Yoshimoto Nara, The Lonesome Puppy. Now this is all visual art related books, but as an exception, the books that I've read from cover to cover. September 1, The Island of Dragons by Lisa Mann. Still going on the series. September 2, 7 Good Years by Edgar Keret. Edgar Keret is a wonderful Israeli writer, and I've read many books by him, so I recommend. September 3rd, 2021, 100 Poems from the Japanese. So now I'm starting the last 2 pages of the book. Now the camera is trying to find my face. Hello, camera. Yes, I'm here. Come on. Let me see if I can make it. No. So, I think I'm going to stop it and restart because the camera is having issues with me. Alright, I'm continuing. So September 3, 2021, 100 poems from the Japanese by Kenneth Rexroth. September 4, 2021, Yiddish songs from Warsaw, 1929-34, the Itzik Zelonek collection, compiled and annotated by Jane Pepler. September, I'm just reading the list because I'm getting tired. I don't know about you. September 4, haiku, Japanese art and poetry, Judith Pratt. September 5, 2021, Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikatsu Kawaguchi. So now this is of course an English translation. This is a Japanese novel. September 6, Dragon Captures by Lisa Mann. This is this never-ending series. September 7, History de Monsieur Pencil per Tupfler. September 8, Dragon Bones by Lisa Mann. September 9, Татьяна Мужицкая, Теория невероятности. Now, so it's Tatiana Muzhitskaya is the author. She's psychiatrist and psychologist. Actually, I'm not sure which one. Psycholog. So one of those. And she published several books. They are related to neurolinguistic programming, which is something I'm quite interested about. And this one is called The Theory of Unreality. Anyway, I can't think, so I can't translate. And our air conditioning is not working in this room for some reason, and it's getting too hot. So I'm going to just try to fly through this list. Anyway, September 6th, I read this. September 10, Dragon Hosts, Lisa Mann. September 11th, The Art of Drowning by Billy Collins. Now this is another poetry book. September 12th, The Bus Driver Who Wanted to Be God and Other Stories by Edgar Carrett. So this is a collection of short stories. September 12th, Dragon Curse by Lisa Mann. September 13th, Dragon Fire by Lisa Mann. So we're going to the last page. Okay. September 14th, Dragon Slayers by Lisa Mann. Everything dragon. September 15th, Dr. A, Your Life book. Now, of course, all these books are different lengths. But Dr. A's Your Life book is, I don't remember how many pages, but it's like 1,000 pages, and it's humongous. And I was reading it throughout all this time, so I can't actually believe I got through it. But if you're curious, this is nonfiction. This is related to this health and wellness plan that I'm on right now. They starting to on the road, I would say, on the path to a better health. And anyway, it has a lot of good material, but to get through it, but I did it. September 16th, Dragon Fury by Lisa Mann. September 17th, Zapiski Malte Lauris Brige by Rilke. Now this is a novel by Rilke. I guess you would translate it, the notes on notebooks of Malte Lauris Brige. I read it, actually I didn't read it in German, I read it in Russian because it's difficult enough. Not my favorite work by Rilke, but sort of you can see its time. So if you kind of mix Joyce and Nabokov, you get this one somewhat. September 18, Победивший дракона Rilke. So this is another. This is actually a short work by Rilke, something like a fairy tale. So something Nietzsche inspired. Not my favorite. I love Rilke, but September 19, Yiddish radio project by David Isay. This was actually interesting. It's a history of Yiddish radio in New York. Now, the story of Yiddish language is quite sad because it's becoming a dead language. There are so many Jews were killed in the World War II, in Holocaust, that the language, there were just not enough people speaking. And by now, and of course Israel accepted Hebrew, not Yiddish, as a main language. So Yiddish is becoming a dead language, unfortunately. So, and this was a very interesting history of Yiddish radio in America. September 20th, Becoming Supernatural by Joe Dispenza, summary and analysis. I'm still natural. September 21, A Charm of Goldfinches and Other Wild Gatherings, Quirky Collective Nouns of the Animal Kingdom by Matt Siewell. Now this is a lot of fun because English has amazing collective nouns. So just think of, The Charm of Goldfinches, or I think it's A Murder of Ravens. And it's a whole list, and I don't even know if there is any other language that has such such quirky, weird collective nouns for animals. The Parliament of Owls, the busyness of ferrets. Now it's supposed to be business of ferrets, but actually it comes from business and got misspelled. So now what it means is when there is more than one ferret. But anyway, the book goes into different animals and their collective nouns. September 22nd, Забытый день рождения, Donald Bissett. Now this is a book from my childhood, and this is one of those few books that I remember reading, that are written for children, that I remember reading as a child. Normally my parents would just give me like Shakespeare since I was 3 years old. But this book was given to me by my grandmother for my 5th birthday. And I reread it. It was wonderful. And I remembered reading it as a child. So, in fact, I liked it so much, I had to find other books by Donald Bissett. I guess he was very popular at some point. Now most of his books are out of print, but they are coming because I got curious. Now this book, it says it by Donald Bissett, but it's not. It was actually a book with Donald Bissett, the author, being a character of a book and talking to his imagination. So it was written, I don't remember which Russian author did it, but there is more original writing than the stories of Donald Bissett, and that original writing is actually amazing. So I'm curious actually to read real Donald Bissett in the original, and I hope very much I will not be disappointed. September 23, Rilke, Auguste Rodin. September 24, Rilke, Poems in Prose. And September 25, City of Bones, Cassandra Clare. So, as you see, it's very, very diverse list. So I'll show you. Now my camera for some reason wants to see my face. If it doesn't see my face, it gets frustrated. So I have to take it. Hello? Okay. Yeah, drive carefully. There are other posts. Oh. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. I know. Yeah, that's shocking. That's very shocking. Yeah, and the thing is, she was like posting on Facebook just today, like 15 hours ago. She was. Yeah. So I'm also quite shocked about it. But anyway, okay, drive very safely. Don't look at the phone, okay? Okay. Yeah. Okay, but if you're sleepy, just stop. Oh. Okay. Good job. Okay, see you soon. Ciao. This was Raphael, and he just dropped my parents because he took them to have their third vaccine, their third Moderna booster. So, which is great because and they also got a flu shot at the same time. Now I don't know if it's too much maybe for them to have two vaccines at the same time, but for some reason that's what they got. And that was my phone. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it was much longer than I intended, but I think I'm just going to record as I see fit. I'm not going to try to have any special format. I'm doing it mainly for myself, this vlog, to have memory. And those who are interested will listen to the end. Those who don't have time will skip around, or maybe this subject is not interesting for you at all. So, so this is my approach. I'll just have fun with this vlog and collect my memories. And sometimes they will be short, sometimes they will be long. So, but that's how it is. I love my subscribers. I'm grateful for your comments. Please subscribe. Please ask me questions. Please write something about these books. Maybe you've read some of them, and if you want to leave me a comment, maybe you're reading something very interesting now. Maybe you're very excited about the book you're reading now. Maybe you have discovered a new author you never read before and you want to share it. Please do so. And I'm grateful, and I hope you are living your life to the fullest. Thank you.